Hello and welcome to St Peter Mancroft, to those of you here and those watching online. I'm Fiona Haworth, the Associate Priest, and this is part of our series of live-streamed reflections from Mancroft, and if you're visiting the church, please feel free to continue looking around. Today's reflection is linked to our Lent Course, Seeing Disability. When we come across disability in the Bible, it is usually in the context of healing miracles. We view this as a good thing. In the time of Jesus, illness and disability were serious and placed a significant burden on families and communities. The only way for some people with serious illness or disability to survive was by begging. It is only since the Tudor era that there has been a notion of the deserving and undeserving poor. It was at this time that a distinction between those deemed legitimately needy and those deemed idle or immoral was enshrined in law. Prior to this, begging was seen as a reminder that life was precarious, a case of, "There but for the grace of God go I," a saying which may be derived from St. Paul writing to the Corinthians, "But by the grace of God I am what I am, and his grace towards me has not been in vain." Attitudes to disability have changed since the biblical era and again since the Tudor period. We have come a long way in our attitudes to illness and disability, but there is still more to do. I was helped to think differently about disability in the church by Professor John Hull, who taught a course in prophetics at Queen's Foundation in Birmingham. John was committed to social justice on theological grounds, believing that anger is the starting point for Christian theology. John's views were shaped by losing his sight. He first lost his sight through cataracts when he was 13. Surgery corrected this, but was followed by a series of retinal detachments. He lost all sight in one eye aged 17, and further eye surgery led to the loss of sight in his other eye at the age of 45. John had no light sensation at all. His interest in prophetic ministry came about through teaching Christian mission. In the 5 marks of mission of the Church of England, 4 is transforming the unjust structures of society. As John observed, that's one we tend to neglect. John's interests were wide-ranging, and his students were expected to take part in some form of ministry that was concerned with transforming the unjust structures of society. John took students to protest at Faslane nuclear base, where he was once arrested. Being completely blind, he spoke with some humour of the care that the police extended to him, calling him sir, carrying his rucksack, and refraining from handcuffing him. The experience did not lessen his commitment to protesting injustice. A good part of John's work addressed the unjust structures of society that trap people with disabilities and reduce their prospects. He felt that the church does not cope very well with disability. Public legislation on human rights, and particularly the campaigns for rights for disabled people, have brought about societal change, which has changed the church. However, there is still a long way to go. The language about blindness can be particularly problematic. Being blind is often used as a metaphor for insensitivity, ignorance, clumsiness, or a lack of discernment. This negative language has made its way into the Bible and into our hymnody, Amazing Grace being an obvious example. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. John confessed to finding the stories about Christ healing the blind annoying. Blindness is associated with sin, unbelief, and darkness. When blindness is removed, people are freed to become followers of Jesus. He found Matthew 23 particularly problematic. In this chapter, Jesus denounces the scribes and Pharisees as blind guides and blind fools, the word blind being used repeatedly in a derogatory way. We are, I hope, more sensitive to nuance in language now. The Church of England is committed to barrier-free belonging and states that the life and ministry of the Church is incomplete without the presence and participation of deaf, disabled, and neurodivergent people. The Church of England is committed to work for the welcome inclusion and participation of all. The Church has a commission for the ministry of and amongst deaf and disabled people, appointed by the Archbishop's Council to establish the vision and encourage the action that will place access and inclusion at the heart of the Church's strategy for future growth. The committee has said this: making our buildings physically accessible and creating environments where people with a wide range of disabilities and differences can be present is important. However, becoming a church that is fully accessible and inclusive and enables the full belonging and participation of deaf, disabled, and neurodivergent people is far more than installing ramps and accessible toilets. It is about demolishing the ableist assumptions that disability is a deficit experience and removing the barriers to belonging and participation that deaf, disabled, and neurodivergent people often experience in the Church. We want to see the gifts of deaf, disabled, and neurodivergent people released to enrich all that the Church is and is becoming. Becoming blind gave John a profound insight into the experience of other marginalised minorities and a sense of solidarity with them that fed into his theological work. For John, the truly miraculous is when disabled people are fully integrated into church life and accepted exactly as they are.